Okay, so we're going to now start setting up our web API. And so we need to install some packages on this project here before we get started. So the first thing that I want to do on this would be to open up the startup on it, and we need to add in some configuration. So if I look here, at the moment under configure services, I'm going to go ahead and add in here a services.configure a cookie policy options here, and we're going to say that in this options I want to say options.check consent needed equals context, and we'll point it to be true, and then options.minimum state equals same state mode dot none. Okay. The next little bit here is that we need to define a connection string, and then set up a, so I'm not going to do it this way. I have a new way that I've been doing this with the contexts. So if I look in here, I want to make a new folder, and I'm going to say that this is called data, and I'm going to make a new one called application DB context. Just a second. We want the PH back open back. We need your backend PHs overlay backend. That one. And so now in this needs to be inheriting from a, and since we're already using the identity server, we just need database context. Like that. And if I look at one of my contexts, a way that I can do this is I can have a constructor that's just empty, and another one that has the DB context options called of my application DB context, and call this options, and do this as a base of the options. Then finally, I need to have my on configuring. So a protected override void on configuring, which is going to be a DB context options builder called options builder. We're going to do options builder dot use SQL server at my globals dot, and we're going to say that this is my dev connection string, like that. So we need to make a new file in here called globals, which has a public constant string called dev connection string. What's the best practice for restricting some functionality to certain users? Is hiding it via ng if enough, or do people separate the admin views and the regular user views? I'm trying to remember what the way was for this, for restriction. The way I do it is that my token contains a roles claim on it, and that would be how I limit access. But in Angular, there's another way, which was called, I think, an interceptor. I think we do it with an interceptor. Hey there, Metin34, how are you doing? If you want to do it on the Angular side, but I would do it on the ASP.NET side. Okay, so that's good. Now my DB context is set up. Okay, back on startup, we need to have this context So we need to do a services.add DB context called an application DB context, just like that. It doesn't need an options with this. Any longer. And then I have a services.add MVC. That's fine. And then I have a services.add, hey, Mix-Lax, how are you doing today? I'm doing great. Thank you for that follow and the support. If you have any questions what I'm working on, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat. This one we want to add my SignalR onto this. And then we need to have a CORS policy for this web API since it's going to be coming from the website, right? Every one of these requests is going to be coming from a different URL. So we need to add a CORS policy in here called my SignalR CORS policy, which will have a builder. And in it, we're going to say builder dot, and it's going to be allow any header, allow any method, dot allow any header, dot allow any origin, dot allow credentials with origins to my globals dot Angular WebApp URL. Okay. The next thing that I need to have in here is I need to have my authentication. Services.add authentication. And it's going to be done with a bearer token. And we're going to add identity server authentication here. And this needs to use identity server 4, I believe. Let me see here what that requires. So if we go to the identity server 4 documentation, and I look at the quick start for a using OpenID Connect, we're going to look for this. In this page. Interesting. This. And this is all my auth stuff that I've already got set up. We've done this. We needed to add this options. And I need to know what that's from. So if I look back at where they created the web API, so we just need to add identity server 4. Okay. So we'll do that right here, and we'll add my servers, my NuGet packages here, and I want to add an identity server 4. We'll install that. And this thing's also going to need to have in here an options, which goes to a new object. We're going to say options.authority is equal to my globals.identity. What? I thought I just added identity server 4. So let me go look at where this is supposed to be. It's identity server 4 access token validation. Uninstall package identity server 4. And I'm sorry, it was install package identity server 4 dot access token validation. Okay, authority here is going to be equal to my globals dot, and this one is my identity server authority URL, and then options dot require HTTPS dataset equals false, and options dot my API name is going to be open DJ radio web API. Like that. Okay, then we need to, probably we want to create a couple of services in here, but also I need to start my policies. So in here, I want to do my app dot use static files, and then we want to say app.use cookie policy, and then we want to say app.use authentication, and then I want to do an app.use cores for my SignalR cores policy that I made, and then we'll do an app.use SignalR, which will do a routes to my routes.map hub called a chat hub, which we need to create, and we'll map it like that. And then we'll map MVC here. And I want to use my default routes of a routes.map route to the like that. Name is going to be equal to default. And my template will be the controller equals home, action equals index, ID question mark. We need to create our chat hub. So in this project, I'm going to create a new SignalR hub called chat hubs. And this is going to be called chat hub. And in this, it needs to be a type of hub. And we need to have a couple of functions. The first is a public asynchronous task called sendMessage, which will pass a message. And that's going to do a clients.all.send asynchronous receive message. And this is the server side of what we already created. On this, we'll need to make a new class called I'll add it in here as a new folder called models, and then we'll add a new folder in here called entities, or view models, or requests. What do I want to call this thing? I'm going to say that this thing is a DTO. Okay, and in this, I just want to have a prop string, which is message, and then a prop GUID for the, we're going to say, we need to have some new models in here, a new folder called entities with a new class called a application. We're just going to say user. And then we'll have a new one here called a message, which needs to have in here a prop string called message raw, and then a prop GUID for the user ID, and a prop user. And each user is going to have a collection of messages, so a prop I collection of message. Okay. So we'll just leave it like this for now. We also want to have another one here called a public asynchronous task called a request song, which is going to have the song queued create request was the name of the object that I was passing. And we'll create a new folder in here called requests. And I'm going to make a new class called a song queued create request, which needs to have in it a string called a search snippet, and that'll be it. So we got a little bit more work here to do, but for me, I am out of time for the day. Thanks for staying with me this morning. I'll be back tomorrow, 5:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you have any questions, our Discord's a great place to put them. And I hope you guys have a best rest of the day. Thanks again, and I will see you guys in the morning. Have a great one. Bye.